Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we'll be learning how to make this beautiful notch collar double-breasted blazer dress. I wasn't able to get my hands on buttons and make buttonholes because I actually finished this on the holiday, the Muslim holiday. So the part that overlap is the part that will have the buttonholes, while the part that is being overlapped, the one inside, is the one that will have the buttons. Anyways, you understand this more as we go into the video. As you might have noticed, the lower part of this dress is pleated. Yes, that's how I made it. I wanted it to have pleats immediately after the butt area. This means that this dress is divided into two parts, the upper part and the lower part, and the lower part is made of pleats. Trust me when I say that this tutorial was made with a lot of love, because I think I'm getting so attached to corporate wears. Anyways, if this looked like what you like to learn, then you need to see this video to the very end. My name is Veronica Adams Eze. Welcome to Vera Adams YouTube channel. Without wasting time, let's get started. As you can see, I've gone ahead to mark essential points on this pattern paper, which is the bust line, the chest line, under bust line, waistline, the hip line, and the lanes where I want the upper part of this dress to stop. Kindly take note, I'll be working on the back piece first before proceeding to the front. So this pattern paper that we're working with right here is for the back piece. So I've gone ahead to mark half of the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5 inches. I'm marking it right from the bust line to the hip line, just as you're seeing me doing here. Once this is done, I'll go ahead and take half inch on both sides on the waistline. Half inch on both sides will give us 1 inch in total. Then I will be going up by 2 inches from the hip line, and I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust line. I'll go ahead and connect all these points together to give us the waist dart. Once this is done, I'll go ahead and impute the measurements, the horizontal measurement. I'll start from the chest line. I'll take 1/4 of the bust measurement, and I'll also repeat the same on the bust line. I'll move on to the under bust and also add that intake. I'll go ahead and move on to the waistline, add 1 inch for that allowance, and then I'll move on to the hip. I'll go ahead and measure 1/4 of the hip measurement. I'll repeat the same measurement on the hip line to that full length line. That's where the upper piece of this body terminates, and I'll go ahead and connect this together. Note that I'm not using a curve ruler here, so you can do it with your free hand as well. From that point, I'm going to connect it right into the armhole line, just as you're seeing it. I would like this part to be a bit fitted. Yes, so I'll be coming in by 1 inch because I want that under butt area to be fitted. So that's why I came in by 1 inch. If you want it straight, you don't need to come in by 1 inch. Just leave it as we did earlier. I made a mistake here. You can see that this thing that I did has affected the measurement on the hip line, so I'm doing the right one right here. So I've gone ahead to highlight the right part with marker pen, as well as the other parts of this. Kindly take note of this correction and avoid it so that you don't end up making the same. Now I can go ahead to work on the neckline for this back piece. So I'm going down by 1 inch for the neckline depth, and I'm connecting it right into the neckline width. Neckline width that I use here is about 3 inches. This is very important for us to make the front piece. Now let's not forget to create the slope at the back. So I'm going to go in on the waistline by 1/2 inch. I'll connect right to at the center of the paper, just as you're seeing me doing here. Then I'll go ahead and connect it upwards and downwards, upwards into the chest line area, a little bit above the chest line, and then downwards to meet the hip line. So now connect this waist dart to meet the armhole. So here where we have half of the armhole line, I'm going to connect it right to meet the bust line, just as I'm illustrating right here. If you have your slightly curved rule available, please go ahead to use it. I don't have mine available right here, so I'm going ahead to use freehand. I'm also using this opportunity to show that it is possible to achieve this with freehand. So at this point, the final thing to do is to cut through the darts. But to do this, we have to go ahead to extend this dart line downwards as so. I'm trying to check that I have 3.5 inches, which I do. So I can go ahead to start cutting this part out. At this point, we're done cutting. I'm going to place the pattern paper together so as to cross check if we have the perfect measurement, and we do. This is a quarter of the waist measurement. I'm also measuring for the bust line, and we have exactly the measurement that we need. Now we can move ahead to cutting out for the front piece. So for the front piece, I'm going to go down by 5 inches from the top of the pattern paper. I'm going to measure it just as you're seeing me doing, and from the center of the pattern paper, I'm also going to go ahead to measure 5 inches away from the center. This would help us to be able to create a collar effect and overlap as well. So once I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and roll this line out. Now go ahead to take the regular measurements, and then I'll ignore these lines that we already have on top and on the side. So from where the top line stops, I'm going to go ahead to mark 9.5 inches for the bust line, 12.5 inches for the under bust line, 16 inches for the waistline. I'm going to extend to the hip line and to the full length. That's the length after the butt area, just as we did for the back piece. I'm using the same lines as we had on the back piece here. I'll go ahead to mark these lines. It's going to be very fast because we already done this for the previous pattern paper. So right here, I'm already taking measurement, but before I continue, I'll go ahead and take the dart measurement, which would be half of the nipple to nipple, which is 3.5 inches, just as we took for the front. So I'm marking it also on the bust line, waistline, on the bust line, and also on the hip line. I'll go ahead and connect these lines together to get a straight line. I'll also go up by 2 inches from the hip line, just as we did for the front, or for the back piece rather. I'm going in by half of an inch on both sides on the waistline. I'm also coming down by 1 inch from the bust line, and I'm connecting it just as you're seeing me doing here. Once this is done, I'll go ahead and impute the under bust measurement, the waist measurement, as well as the hip measurement. On the under bust and the waist measurement, I'm going to go ahead and add that intake to it. So for this length part, just as we did for the back piece, we're going to go ahead and take 1 inch away so that that part becomes fitted. So I've already gone ahead to highlight the important points with the marker pen so it becomes more visible. Right from the mid part of the armhole, I'm going to connect right to meet the bust line, just as you're seeing me doing here. Now I'll move to the full length of these bodies, and I'll go ahead to extend the dart downwards as so. So now we can concentrate on the reason for this tutorial. So you determine where you want your breaking point to be, because I don't want it exposing cleavage. I said to come up by 1 inch from my underbust, that is 11.5 inches, and from that point I went ahead to mark 4 inches. So I'm marking 4 inches from that breaking point till I get to the end of these bodies. I'll go ahead and connect it together to give a straight line. So I'll go ahead to close this up. That means this extension that we did, I'm going to connect it to meet that breaking point. So from that point, I'm going to extend this from the neckline, the neck width. I'm going to extend it to make this extension of 4 inches that we did, just as you're seeing me doing here. If you notice, you see that I actually extended this line above the neckline point. Yes, there's a reason for that. Now is the time to bring in the back piece and then go ahead and measure what you have on the neckline. Remember that we already made the neckline for the back, so just go ahead and measure what you have. When I measured this, I had about 3.5 inches. So exactly what you have on your back piece neckline, that's what your extension will be right here. After marking the 3.5 inches, you go ahead and take in half of an inch on the side as you're seeing me doing here, and then connect it. The essence of doing this is to ensure that the collar stays well around your neck. The next thing to do at this point is determine the width of the collar. So you can use 2.5 inches, 3 inches, or even 3.5. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be using 3 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 3 inches from that point. Take note of the way I'm placing my tape rule. I'm not placing it straight. I am making it slanted, at least about 1 inch slanted up, like extended upwards. So make sure that yours is not straight, it is slanted, just as you're seeing me doing here. So after you have measured your 3 inches, you come to the neckline depth and then go ahead and measure 3 inches. You can do more if you want, but 3 inches is fine for me. Connect it straight as so, and then go ahead and divide it into 2. That means you have 1.5. On that point where you have 1.5, go ahead and mark 1.5 in a slanted manner. Make sure that it is slanted and connect it. So from the 1.5 extension, connect upwards to make the collar width. You can use the slightly curved part of your ruler if you have, but since I don't have mine here, I decided to just make it straight. It's fine if it is straight as well. So after this is done, I'll go ahead and connect from this point down to meet the 4 inches extension, and that will form the lapel. I'll bring it closer so that you can see it well. So this is a closer look. At this point, we've successfully completed the drafting for this front bodies, so we can go ahead to cut out. Please kindly pay attention to the cutting of this, especially around the collar area. Note that you'll not be cutting out this part, it's just a guide. Now that has been said, we can continue with the cutting. So the difference between this and a short collar is that you don't have to cut out that notched part. So if we're cutting out a short collar, we'll just cut it like this. There's no need for this extra cutting that I'm going to do right here. But because this is a notched collar, we're going to be cutting this part out. I hope you understand that. It is quite important to place a notch around this area. Make sure that you notch this part. It is very important. It will help when you're sewing. So the notch is going to be on both the collar and the main bodies. I'm sorry guys, I have to cut this tutorial short because I've been having issues with uploading videos that are more than 18 minutes. So that means this tutorial is going to be having a part B, which I'll be uploading after this. In the part B of this tutorial, we'll be transferring from pattern to fabric, and we'll also be learning how to couple the pieces together. I hope that you did find this video useful. If you did, kindly give it a thumbs up by clicking on the like button. And if this is your first time here, I want to say welcome. To subscribe. See you in the sewing tutorial. Bye.